Hi,
Hey,
Justin.
Chris.
How are you?
I'm good. We did it.
We did it.
This is cool. This is our first time live.
I'm excited, and honestly, it's my first time doing a live interview on Instagram.
No way.
Yeah,
You're like an expert in all this.
I am a huge desktop person, so I
Got
love to
it.
stream on desktop. So I'm excited. This is fun for me. I bet you all be showing up on IG Live more.
I hope so too. Like this is really fun to experiment. So I'm excited to have you as our first guest of our first ever virtual pop-up.
Thank you.
And for everyone who just joined, I am Justin from Poppery, and I have with me today Chris Gio from Merchant Method. And yes, Chris, it's just really exciting to have you, and we're really happy that you're our first guest. So we'd love for you to tell us a little bit about you and Merchant Method and what you do.
All right. Hi, Justin. Hi, everyone. I am a lover of the small merchant, the small maker, the small retailer, probably a lot like you. And I'm a business coach, really specifically for that community. And I help businesses that own inventory become more profitable without losing all of their values and all of their heart.
Right.
Yeah.
And right now is just such a weird and anxious time for retail everywhere, and that's kind of why we wanted to talk to you, and maybe you could help us sort some of this craziness out. In particular, like everyone is like switching to virtual,
Yeah.
switching to video, switching to social media, and like it's a confusing time. And so we'd love to learn about like what your approach is, or what you are sort of seeing people do, and what works and what doesn't.
So I feel like, yes, it's a confusing time, and anything that we knew to be true or to work even like months ago is really changing and shifting right now, particularly as like we hop onto tools like livestream and video and have our customers hop onto those tools as well. And so I think the reason why, I think the statistic as of last week was that live streaming video hopped up by 55%.
Yeah,
And I think a lot of that is because things are changing moment to moment. And it's the quickest way that we can, number one, stay connected in the way that we like to do in person, but then to shift along with the reality of the world. It's so much faster to do it on video.
right. And
Hmm.
and and doing live streams like this, it's like really nice to actually feel connected and to like you and I are connected and joining together, but we're also talking to all the folks out there that are joining us and want to hear about the story that we're telling. And so that's really cool.
And I'm particularly excited to see your house.
Yes, I know.
It's lovely.
I know. Chris and I have known each other for a few years, but so we just had this renovation in our house, and we haven't had anyone over really yet. But yes, this is me. I'm joining you from my basement.
It's nice.
Yes. So, so let's say so you work with retailers. What kinds of problems do you sort of help them sort out? What questions will you answer? What's the typical interaction?
So typically what I've noticed in kind of the years that I've been coaching and consulting, and even in the years prior to that, just working in the industry, is that most people don't know how to profit from the inventory that they have.
Yeah,
And running a business and earning an honest profit is much more complicated than simply doing the math of profitability. And it's much more complicated than simply learning to be comfortable on video or having a certain kind of personality. It's much more complicated than being very good technically or having a really good artistic sense. It's the blend of all of that. And everyone has, a different skill set. And so it's about cultivating the skill set that someone wants and helping them to achieve, either the level of profitability they want or the level of success. Because sometimes success is not about scaling. Success is about having, a balance of great enough profit and a personal life. And so I'm really just guided by what clients want, what students want. And then we use this toolkit, like a really good standard toolkit that really is not rocket science. It's certainly not secret. And I just teach people how to use the tool for the job they want done.
yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
I mean, so one thing, it's like this is a weird time both for retailers and for customers. Like I want to be out there supporting all my local Seattle businesses, but it's like really hard right now. And I don't know like what other levers I can pull to help people out, or like how I can stay engaged or stay supportive of sort of my community. And like, so I mean, have you been hearing stories from retailers out there about like how they can engage with customers or?
Oh, yeah. I think some of the things that we've done normally are still really valuable. So things like commenting, liking, posting, sharing, tagging a friend, those actually mean more now
Right.
because everyone, for me included, it is always about no matter how big our heart is and how great our intentions are, like what does it mean for me? And now more than ever, everyone has had to ask themselves, what does life mean for me? And so the simple things mean even more now. So do those things, keep doing them, even though, we can't expect everyone to catch every piece of content we put out there. But the likes, the comments are really valuable. Of course, the shopping, if you're able to, the buying gift cards, if you're able to.
Yeah.
Reviews are fantastic. Whether you're reviewing on Facebook or Google or Yelp or, TripAdvisor, like all of that's really valuable. And then just even a random note, like a quick email, a quick check-in, sliding into someone's DMs to say, hey, I'm thinking about you. These don't have to be really long conversations for them to be meaningful. And so, as business owners, we know and we trust, like, yes, my customers still love us, but even just having that little bit of feedback is valuable.
Yeah, I think that's such an important message right now. And I think like a lot of folks that I've been talking to, like they feel anxious, they feel lost, like the rest of us. And like that little bit of support might help them sort of like figure out or get the motivation to like, spice up their online presence, or like learn how to make these connections virtually instead of physically. So that support can, like just a little bit of support can go a long way. And I think that's a really powerful message.
And I think like you're a really great example of this, Justin, in that it's all about experimenting. And right now everyone is co-signing on experimentation. Everyone's
Yeah.
saying yes and they're voting for it. And so I think now experimenting, even with things like participating in a virtual pop-up or showing up live or just doing anything different, you can do it, and it does not need to be a fully baked idea.
Yeah.
And your customers will be excited for something different.
I think that's right. I think that's such a good message. Like, I think we're doing this today. Like, we put this virtual pop-up together in like a week and a half or so, and it's been a little bit of a sprint to get here, but we're proud of all the work that we put into it. But it was this, this drive of experimentation of like, we got to do something. Um, and I think like, yeah, I mean, it's been fun, and it's a little bit, obviously like I'm anxious to be here. I'm a little nervous, but like it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be fun.
Oh, everyone is. We all are. I'm sure
Yeah,
too. Even people who are viewing, like your customers that are viewing, they're probably anxious because they might want to watch and then might have to get interrupted with some distance learning for their child, or
right,
something is going to pop up. Like the grocery delivery might be coming at the door a little early. Like everyone's just has this heightened level.
right.
Um, but yeah, just understanding that time is different, and this little bit of being live and having these wonderful 19 people joining us, but
Yeah,
then knowing that people later will be watching the video too,
that's
just
right.
understanding together apart is actually very meaningful.
And that's another thing I think most retailers that I talk to maybe don't think about, is that actually these videos, when you go live, they're available later. Like you can use these to send newsletters, you can post them on your website, you can, have a story that you create out of them. And so they're these artifacts that can help you promote your business down the road. It's not just about who's there in the moment.
Right. Totally agree.
So let's dig more into video. So like, what are some of the, like, what's, selling on video 101 for all the retailers out there? Like, how do you approach that conversation with them?
It's really interesting. I was having a chat with someone yesterday, and they were asking me like, what is your normal line of questioning, or what do you usually advise people? And I usually always start with a question, and I use a question to answer a question, and it can be extremely frustrating. And I think in this case, it's like even more meta in that when we think about using video to sell, we need to really ask ourselves, what do we want? Like, what do we
Right.
actually want in this like micro moment? And so it's helpful to understand a couple of different ways that video is useful. Like even my sister's on video in the background. I don't know if you can hear her, but she's on a conference call. My son's on like telelearning. My husband's on a conference call. So there's basically three kinds of videos. I mean, they all boils, down to three kinds. So the first is educational. Like this is really like what you and I are doing, right?
Right.
So we're either talking about like lifestyle content or transferring knowledge or showing things behind the scene. Creatives are really good at behind the scenes video, so educational. Then there's awareness. And this is really important right now for small businesses because we've been spending the last few weeks taking the customers and bringing them closer. But pretty soon we want to start acquiring new customers.
Hmm.
And awareness is really great for retention and acquisition. And that really is around like, hey, I'm here and I'm here for you. And sometimes it is feels like, oh, I don't know what to say, or I have to sell all the time. Awareness is mostly like taking up real estate in someone's like head space and their heart space, and hopefully maybe even in their wallet space. And it can be a little bit more freeform or experimental right now. Like that sounded wrong. And then the third type is more engagement, like polls. Oh my gosh. Polls are great on Instagram. Q&A is really great on Instagram. Asking people to vote for looks. Like there's one business in West Seattle where there's 2 locations and employees at 2 locations do style offs. And so like who wore it
That's
better,
clever.
which is really fun. And so anything that gets customers involved and your audience involved, that's another great way to use video. And so thinking through like, what do I actually want to do in this moment? Am I really trying to educate on the product, on how to use it, on how to care for it, on the history of it? Or am I trying to let people know like, hey, this is a great alternative or a great option for a need. So I know for those people that celebrate Easter on Sunday, right. And so
Right.
there's a whole wave of campaigns and like awareness around like I have product and I can get it to you if you order by this date. That's all driving awareness. So like a lot of orders are due today at noon to get to you by Easter Sunday. And then this engagement piece, like ask me a question. So those are like easy ones.
I think like one thing that I know at least I struggle with personally, and I think a lot of like small businesses and makers also struggle with this is how do you like it can take some like getting over that awkwardness of like asking for a sale or like
Yeah,
asking for that call to action. Like
right.
like how do you like do you coach people to get over that, or do you just like there is no coaching, you just have to do it?
You know what? I will say there is no coaching. You just have to do it. And
Yeah.
I think what this moment, this like unprecedented moment is really calling us to do and inviting us to do is to sit in the space where we may have avoided,
Right.
right? So like actually asking for what it is we want. So like the number one way to get what you want is to ask for it.
Yeah.
And you can ask and not be gross about it. You can ask and it doesn't have to be disingenuine. It doesn't have to feel like HSN or QVC, though I think there's something really special about the infomercial. Like I
Yeah.
love a good infomercial. I'm a sucker.
It's
But
so
really,
funny, like they like it's such a like retro, like I mean it's part of like at least our generation's like childhood, it feels like
mhm.
and I wonder if that's like there's something like homey about them.
Yeah, I love it. And I think too, part of it is you only get better by doing it. And there's so much science that backs that up. You
Right.
can take like any athlete, any child learning to walk, anyone who's like learning how to read for the very first time, even as an adult, like you only can do it by doing it. And the best place to start is by understanding like what are your brand values? How do you like to talk about your products? What
Hmm.
do you always say yes to and what do you always say no to? And just like starting from there and saying simple things. So like I wrote down a few simple things like, hey, like I'm selling you this product. I don't know. So this is a selfie ring light from Stephanie Liu over at Lights Camera Live. I put it on my phone and then I took it off because I didn't need it. I could be talking about it on video and say, hey, why don't you click on this link and then you can just learn more about this.
Yeah,
Easy. Or if you
beautiful.
want a little bit more about how this works, hop on my site. There's a new blog post on how I use it. There's a link there if you want to buy it. Or like, hey, click the link in my bio to buy this. This is my favorite thing. Like all of this is so easy.
Yeah.
Or
And it's
even like,
natural too. Like, I mean, that's what, if you were hanging out with friends and like there was a product that you loved and enjoyed, like you would tell them about how they want to get it.
right. And I think if what we're saying is the truth, it feels better than if we were lying. If I were to say there's only 20 of these, buy them now, and I had 100, of course it would come off gross because I would deep down feel gross about it,
Yeah.
right? So I think
Yeah.
it's just about practicing the conversation, and I find that the less rehearsed you are, the just easier it comes off.
I think that's
So
right.
I promise the more and more I practice anything, the worse and worse it gets. So I've just stopped writing things out. I've stopped memorizing.
Yeah. I mean, I used to struggle with that in like any sort of like presentation that I'd have to give, or like the more that I practiced, I think like I get stuck in, as soon as I get off of that like rehearsed line, I get like nervous and then like trip myself up. So
Yeah.
just be yourself and be natural.
That's why I started live streaming in 2015 and I would not stop and do anytime I moved to like pre-recorded, it took so much longer. And
Hmm.
when I moved to podcasts, it just took so much longer. There's something very forgiving and human and like intriguing about live video, like what's actually going to happen. I'm
Yep.
really curious.
Yep.
But it's very forgiving.
Yeah. So I understand you're going to be hanging around this afternoon, and if anyone has any retailers or makers out there, if they have questions for you, you'll be available.
Yeah, so I'm experimenting too. So I've posted something in the stories. Feel free to ask me a question. Anything around selling on video or showing up on video or just like business questions, I'm here throughout the day to answer them. You can either pop them into my stories or you can DM me at Merchant Method. So
Awesome.
yeah, let's just type that in at Merchant. I've got this like great keyboard that may or may not work. Merchant Method. And then you can ask me your questions and I'll be
That's awesome.
experimenting and having fun.
Great. Chris, it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
It's awesome to chat with you. I'm so excited to see how today unfolds. Everyone have a good time. And customers, if you're at home joining, like give all the love.
Thanks so
Give
much.
all the love.
And for everyone joining, if you follow hashtag Poppery Pop-ups, and I don't have a cool keyboard like Chris, but I'm going to type it into the chat here. You can see all the posts from everyone participating today, including Chris. Hopefully, yes. Um, awesome. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Chris. We'll
Bye.
see
Thank
you
you.
soon.
Okay. See you soon. Bye.
Bye bye.